Hey, welcome back to another episode of Simple Truth Television. Today is March 15th, 2022. So, yesterday on March 14th, the Pro Wrestling Hall of Famer Scott Hall passed away at the age of 63. They're saying that he suffered 3 heart attacks over the weekend and he was placed on life support. And I guess yesterday his family decided to take him off life support, and then he was pronounced dead just moments after that. His death seems to be connected to multiple things. If you're not familiar with Scott Hall, he was the member of the wrestling group NWO alongside Hulk Hogan, and I believe it's Kevin Nash, the other member of that group. Here's a photograph of the three. You know, when this group was popular, I was really young, so I don't really remember much about this group, but I do remember that, this was like the biggest group in wrestling at that time, the NWO. And that's before I even knew about the NWO, right? The Jesuit order. But I remember a lot of the times they used to do the skull hand signs, and I had no idea what it was. A lot of people in my school at that time said that, oh, that's just the symbol of the wolf pack, and that goes to show you how long they've been doing this. But this is not the wolf pack, you guys. This is the devil horns, which a lot of these celebrities do. And a lot of the pictures that you see Scott Hall in, he's doing these devil horns. And it's not because of the wolf pack. It's not because of the NWO. It's because he's paying tribute to the Jesuit order, the real NWO. So, if you visit his Wikipedia, this is Scott Hall here on the far right. If you visit his Wikipedia, they're saying that on March 12th of 2022, he suffered an injury, which led to a surgery, and I guess the surgery had some complications, which led to a blood clot, and the blood clot led to 3 heart attacks, and that's what led to him being on life support. And then from there, he passed away, right? But what I'm going to show you guys in this video is that all that stuff is contrived bullshit. This man was actually murdered by a very repetitive code known as Gematria, which is the practice of coding numbers into words. This is the code that we use every single day to expose how these celebrities are actually being killed. They're not dying from no heart attacks. They're dying on the most perfect day ritualistically. Yesterday is a special day because yesterday was Pi Day, the 73rd day of the year. And if you're familiar with the mathematical equation of pi, it's 3.14 and then a whole bunch of other numbers, right? But yesterday's day is written 3/14, like the number 314. So that's why on this day it's considered Pi Day. So we see a lot of rituals on Pi Day. Like yesterday, Stephen Curry, whose birthday was yesterday. Stephen Curry plays for the Golden State Warriors. Yesterday was the first time since 2019 that him, Klay Thompson, and Draymond Green played together on the same court since 2019, because they all been injured at different moments of the season. So they never been on the court at the same time since 2019. And guess how many points all three of them scored yesterday? They scored a combined of 73 points on the 73rd day of the year, to pay tribute to Curry, who was born the 73rd day of the year, right? Pi Day. So, and 73 is a big number with the death of Scott Hall, because they announced yesterday was I guess Monday Night Raw, that's when they chose to announce this man's death. And this is a very important number, 73. But notice Monday Night Raw is 73. His death was announced during Monday Night Raw. Something that he was very familiar for, performing on Monday nights, right? During his wrestling career. But Monday Night Raw has that 73 Gematria, just like sacrifice. And that's exactly what happened to this man. This man was a ritual sacrifice. If you notice the headline, what it says here? Pro Wrestling World mourns the death of Scott Hall. Lost a brother. And of course they emphasize lost a brother because of the numbers behind that phrase. Notice it equals 153, 54, and 72, just like Jesuit order, who are the real NWO. And I want you guys to notice this, right? So, his name's Scott Hall. When in his wrestling career, he went by Raymond Razor. I think it was that was his alias, but his real name is Scott Hall. You guys notice how his name is something 133. Now I'm really surprised they didn't take him out on March 13th. They chose to take him out on the 14th, right? On 143. But I find it interesting because, technically March 13th, that was his last full day on Earth. I mean, well, that was the last day he was alive for a full day, right? Because he died I think it was during the afternoon on March 14th. So he didn't get to live the entire day yesterday. So his last full day being alive was technically March 13th. And just notice how his name is 133. And I'm seeing a lot of synchronicities with that date instead of March 14th. Because we usually see these celebrities, their deaths being synced up with the day that they actually die. But I'm noticing that his death was synced up more with the last full day that he was alive for, which was March 13th. Because notice this. He was born on October 20th in the year 58, which is an important number to Freemasonry. And he, his last full day that he was able to live was March 13th. Notice that was 144 days after his birthday. We just notice how his name is 133, right? And of course, Jesuit order is 144 and 72. And March 13th, that was the 72nd day of the year. So how perfect for the 72nd day of the year to be 144 days after his birthday. And I think that's why a lot of celebrities have this October 20th birthday. Is because it connects to the Jesuit order. We see a lot of celebrities with the October 20th birthday. And notice this, right? So Vince McMahon, who is the CEO of wrestling, he was born on August 24th. Notice he's 76, big skull and bones number. But March 13th was 201 days after his birthday. And of course, the Jesuit order is 201. But if you could also measure, to the day that he died. Now notice this, because he died on the 14th. So Vince McMahon his birthday is on Kobe Bryant Day, right? And you notice how it's 202 days. So Scott Hall dies 202 days after Vince McMahon's 76th birthday. And those two numbers are used in a lot of Skull and Bones rituals, right? Because Skull and Bones, the secret society out of Yale, notice it equals 202 and 76. Yesterday was 202 days after Vince McMahon's 76th birthday. So that's probably why they waited till the 14th to take him out, just to have this big Skull and Bones ritual. But again, his last full day of being alive was March 13th. His name is 133, like the date March 13th. And that is also 144 days after his birthday. And there's a lot of more synchronicities with that date, which I'll get into in a second. But like I said in the beginning, the other two members are Hulk Hogan, and I believe this is a man named Kevin Nash. Yes, his name is Kevin Nash. Kevin Nash, he actually released a tweet saying that he was heartbroken because of the news. I mean, that's all bullshit. I mean, these people know that it's coming. It's the price you pay for being a celebrity. But notice Kevin Nash, he was born July 9th. He's 62. That's a big sacrifice number. Sacrifice is 62. Sacrifice is also 73, like how Scott Hall died on the 73rd day of the year. But going back to that March 13th date, notice from March 13th, which was again his last full day of being alive, to Kevin Nash's upcoming birthday is 118 days. And in Gematria, the word death is 118. Now, as for Hulk Hogan, who was born on August 11th, I measured to March 12th, and this is why. If you read the Wikipedia, they're saying that on March 12th, that was the day that Scott Hall suffered his injury, which led to the surgery and the blood clot and then the life support. So I found it interesting that March 12th was 213 days after Hulk Hogan's birthday, and that's a big death number because death is 213. So death is 213 and 118, and those two numbers were used to sync up the injury and the death of Scott Hall with the other two members of the NWO crew. So this was a very clever ritual. Now I was watching Derek's video earlier today, and he pointed out how Scott Hall, who was inducted into the Hall of Fame back in 2014, his name has that 29 gematria. Notice it equals 29, 133. We spoke about that number, right? But it equals 29, the most pure cipher. From the day that he was inducted into the Hall of Fame, which I think it was April 3rd, 2014, if I'm not mistaken, it should be 2,900 days. So let's just measure, see what's going on. See. Actually, it wasn't. So it was April 5th. And I'll double check it just so you guys can see that this is actually the actual date. So the 2014 Hall of Fame, the Wrestling Hall of Fame, was held on April 5th, 2014. And that was the day that Scott Hall was inducted into the Hall of Fame. From that date to his death on March 14th is exactly 2,900 days. And we just notice how his name equals 29, right? And notice what else is 29. He died on Pi Day. When you write out Pi, it has that 29 gematria. And Derek also said that his character, his wrestling character, was it was portraying the fictional movie character Scarface, which was played by Al Pacino. And I'm gonna show you something about Al Pacino as well. Speaking of Skull and Bones. But notice Scarface has that 29 gematria as well. And is also 56, like Society of Jesus. But Al Pacino, who plays Scarface, I'm not sure why they synced up Al Pacino with this man's death. But we just saw the Skull and Bones numbers, how it synced up with Vince McMahon's birthday to the death of Scott Hall. He died 202 days after Vince McMahon's 76th birthday. Now notice with Al Pacino was born on April 25th. Al Pacino's actually 81 right now. I'm thinking about Scarface came out in 83. You imagine to take out Al Pacino at the age of 83? I won't be surprised. We know murder is 83. But April 25th, right? Now look. April 25th, going back to that last full day that he was alive, right? March 13th. This is what I'm saying. They were syncing up that day with a lot with his ritual, March 13th. Probably because his name is 133. But again, they waited until the 14th to have the Skull and Bones ritual with Vince McMahon. But notice March 13th was 322 days after Al Pacino's birthday. And Skull and Bones, they identify by that number 322. So isn't that interesting? And again, his character, Razor Raymond, it portrayed Scarface. Scarface, the fictional character that Al Pacino played in the film Scarface, which came out in 83, which was 38 years ago. And we just noticed how Al Pacino's 81. I wonder if he lives 2 more years. That's like his most memorable film, Scarface. It's 81 right now. But yeah, so I think that's pretty much. It's a lot more as well, but if you want to watch Derek's video, because he synced up a lot of the other things that had to do with the eclipses, and he talked a little deeper into the Hall of Fame, because when you read these articles, they pretty much tell you what the ritual is about. And actually, let me show you guys. So the post, they put up a picture of Scott Hall, and then they wanted to remind us about his Hall of Fame acceptance speech back in 2014. And that's what they do, because these rituals are usually connected to past events, like the Hall of Fame. But see if I can find it. All these images that they use, the media, all these images, all these people you see leaving tweets, somehow, some way, that man's death is synced up with those people. Ric Flair, you want to message to Ric Flair's birthday? I guarantee you're gonna see some interesting numbers. Maybe it wasn't a post, maybe it was CNN, but that was like the top picture that I saw when I was looking up this man's story. They wanted to bring up that Hall of Fame night, but notice what it says right here. WWE announced the news to open Monday Night Raw. We just noticed the 73 connection with Monday Night Raw, right? A show Hall appeared on the first episode of in 1993. So how perfect, right? He was on the first episode of Monday Night Raw, and then he dies on Monday Night Raw. Like, come on, you guys. Yeah, so Derek, he went, because I think Derek is a wrestling fan, because he knew a lot more about this guy than I did. But yeah, his name, Razor Raymond, has probably almost a perfect gematria of values with Freemasonry. Right, Freemasonry is another secret society controlled by the Jesuit order. And I want you guys to notice life support, because that's the big theme, right? He was on life support. They took him out of life support to pretty much execute him. But notice life support, Freemasonry, and Razor Raymond, they all have that 58 and 59 gematria. March 13th, which was his last full day of being alive, that was a day with 58 numerology, and then he ended up dying the next day on March 14th, a day with 59 numerology. So this is probably why they synced up the rituals with both of those dates, because both of those dates are relevant to this man's death. As for him dying at the age of 63, remember he's in his 64-year life, so he technically died at the age of 64, and we know kill in Gematria is 64. So R.I.P. to him. And if I missed anything, feel free to leave it in the comment section. Actually, I did miss a lot of. See, this is what I'm saying. There's a lot to this. Like the upcoming WrestleMania, for example, right? WrestleMania 38 will be, I think, in Dallas, Texas this year. And it's supposed to start on April 2nd. Now, going back to that March 13th date, and you can also say March 14th is also 20 days if you include the end date. So you could say from his death to the upcoming WrestleMania, he died 20 days before WrestleMania, and death is 38 and 20. The upcoming WrestleMania will be WrestleMania 38. That number that we talk about almost every single day in this channel when it comes to the celebrity deaths, because it's the number that they use the most. Because death, killing, R.I.P., the word murder, even the word decay. Just do a gematria of decay and death. Think about what happens to your body when you die, right? It's nearly perfect. Like, is this a coincidence for those of you that believe in coincidences? Like, what are the odds that these two words, which clearly have different letters, right? One has a T and an H. The other one has a C and a Y. So they're very different letters used for these two words. But they seem to equal the same values in gematria. And not only that, these two words have a connection. Because when the body dies, it begins to decay, right? So that's how you can see and notice that the people who invented the language, they actually did it by this way. They used math to code the letters and turn it into words. This is why you got a lot of words. Like, think about the word two, and then two. Like, all three of those words are pretty much the same. Two. But how come they're written differently? Well, it's because of the values. And this is what they don't teach you in school. Why we can't use two for the same thing as two and two? We can literally use them for the same thing because they sound the same. But the values are not the same. So I think that's why these words are spelled different even though they sound the same. People who invented the language invented it with a code hidden inside of it, and that's what they don't tell us. But yeah. So I guess we could leave it there. So yeah, so WrestleMania 38 will be in 20 days from this man's death. So let's see what tributes they do at the next WrestleMania. We want to take the time out to remember the great Scott Hall. I know he's watching from above. I can't wait for the scripted tributes. Unbelievable. But again, these people signed up for this stuff, so don't feel too bad for them because they knew it was coming. Here he is doing his Jesus pose. And then he died in a big Jesuit ritual. So I'll leave it there, and you guys enjoy the rest of your Wednesday. Thank you for joining me.